Welcome to the channel on the surf. Here is the family, Sandra, Hector and Jack. My name is Jimmy and we are the family that lives on the surf. So, how much solar do you need? How much battery do you need? That's always the question. So, step one is to find out how much power your electric stuff takes. So I have two fridges in this boat, so let's go and measure how much they are taking. Yeah, the time is about 9 in the morning. It's a clear sky, so it's a lot of sun, but it's still no way near, perfect angle as it is when it's noon. But I don't know if you can see it. There. Almost 8 amps. So that's really good. So let's start counting. Let's check on how much power each fridge takes. So I use one of these amp meters. So let's see. That's the white one. I'm running that on 12 volt because it's a 12 volt fridge. And that little box is an 24 to 12 volt step down converter. So that one takes 5 amps. Let's see if the other one is running. .2 amps. And yeah, that one is running on 24 volts. So just double that and then you get it in 12 volts. So 2.4 amps on 12 volt. Now we can start count. As you saw, there are stuff running on 12 volts, stuff running on 24 volts. I have both 24 volt system and a 12 volt system in this boat. So yeah, one of the fridges is 12 volts, the other one is 24 volt. The solar panel and the batteries are hooked up to produce 24 volt, but there is enough numbers anyway, so I'm just gonna convert all my numbers to 12 volts because most of you run 12 volts. So as you saw, fridge 1 took 1.2 amps at 24 volts. Just double that and then you get it on 12 volts. So that one is 2.4 amps at 12. The other one is on 4.8 at 12. That combined is 7.2 amps. That equals 86.4 watts. But they are not running 24/7. I have both the fridges turned really low, so they run about 15 minutes every hour. That's a quarter of an hour. That's 0.25 hours. And there are 24 hours a day. So 24 divided by 0.25, a quarter of a day. That's 6 hours. That means in a 24-hour period, my fridges are running 6 hours. And they are taking 86.4 watts. So 6 times 86.4 watts. That equals 518.4 watts in a 24-hour period. So now we know how much power they are taking for a 24-hour period. So let's say for an example, a standard battery are at 120 amp hours. You have to separate amps and amp hours, watts and watts hour. You should just, it's two different things. Amps is current, and let's for this example, the battery are at 120 amp hours. That means you can run 120 amps for 1 hour, or 1 amp for 120 hours. That's the basic label, but in reality, lead batteries, you can only pull out about 50% from them, otherwise they will take damage. So just start counting. 120 amp hours times 12 volts, that equals 1440 watts. And since we only can use half of that, divide it by half, that equals 720 watts we can pull out of these batteries. And the fridges took 518.4 in a 24-hour period. That means on one of these batteries we can run our fridge for 24 hours without any charging. But you need to charge it, and now we are talking about solar. In our last boat we have about the same setup, and the fridge just going 24/7, and we had a 140 watt panel on that boat. And here in Sweden we are talking about, with the new top modern solar panels, we can get out about 75% efficiency, and let's say 6 hours of 100% solar, that we can count at 75%. So 140 watts times 6 hours times 0.75, since it's 75%, that equals 630 watt hours. So in a 24-hour period, the solar put out 630 watt hour, and the fridge took 518.4. So we are good. That's on a really nice day. You need to have a lot more. And those 518 watts, as you saw, they were on 2 of my fridges. In the last boat we only had 1. So in this example, the 140 watt panel, in a good day with 6 hours of full sunshine, we produced enough electricity to run the fridge for 48 hours. That's the basic setup. Yeah, so that's how you do it. Combine everything that you have in the boat and count how much you want to run it, and then you work your way through that. So in this example, both of my fridges takes 518 watts. So let's say in this example you only have one. That's about, let's say, 250 watts. In a 24-hour period, you have a solar panel at 140 watt. You have a good day with 6 hours sunshine. It produces 630 watts. That means you can run your fridge for almost 3 days. But you have those days without any good sunshine. Then you need batteries. And a 120 amp hour battery, that's 720 watts. That means you can run the fridge for 3 days on that battery. So the math, it breaks about even. But yeah, that's still on the very, very low end. I should have used at least, absolute minimum 2 of those batteries just to have some extra spare, because as time goes, the batteries decay, the solars decay, so yeah. I would say at least 240 watt hour battery for one fridge, and with an 140 watt solar panel. And that's for, you know, those modern fridges with compressor. Those old one, thermoelectric, just forget about that. Oof. They are only for when you are hooked up on shore power. But in this boat we have now, I have geared up a lot, really a lot. I added 2 solar panels. They are on 175 watt each. 350, let's say 340 for just so I have the numbers on the right side. So say 340 watts. And the batteries I have in the boat, in the house bank, they are at 540 amp hours in if they were hooked up in 12 volts. And they are really special batteries. They are normally used in, you know, as backup powers in radio towers and stuff like that. So I can run them down a little bit more, I can use about 75% instead of 50 in normal lead batteries. So 540 amp hours times 12 volts, that's 6480 watts, but I can only use 75%, so I can pull out 4,860 watts for 1 hour. That's a lot. And the solars on the specs are 340 watts, and as you saw down there, the numbers you saw on the display is at 24 volts, so double that, you get it in 12 volts, and I've done some checking and measuring for a while now, and they are averaging about 20 amps an hour when they are running on full. This time of year we have about 15 hours of sunshine, so just for the sake of it, 15 hours of sun, 240 watts an hour. That means for a 24, that means 15 hours times 240 watts. That means in a 24-hour period my solar panels puts out 3600 watts, and that's a lot. So the batteries, I can pull out 4,860 watts for 1 hour. The solar panels are putting in 3,600 watts on a 24-hour period. What does those numbers mean? Yeah, let's say I want to run a coffee maker. A coffee maker is about 2,000 watts. Yeah, and I've almost got why I'm talking in watts. It's because the watts never change. It's only the volts and the amps that change. Let's say in your household you have 230 volts, you run 10 amps, that's 2,300 watts. If you have an, let's say, a 24 volt system, as I have, and you run 100 amps, that's 2,400 watts. So it's just, I'm talking in watts because that's the power something takes. And the only numbers, if you go down in volts, you have to go up in amps and so on. So yeah, a coffee maker takes 2,000 watts. And what does it take? 15 minutes to make a full batch of coffee. and that's a quarter of an hour, and a quarter is 0.25. So 2000 watt times 0.25, that's 500 watt hour. The solar panels are putting out 240 watt hour in average during the day, and if I run a 2000 watt coffee maker for 15 minutes, that's 500 watt hour. So 500 watt hours from the coffee maker, and divide that by 240 watt hours. That means it takes 2.08 hours for the solar panels to recharge the batteries to full if you started with a full battery when you started the coffee maker and run it for 15 minutes. Yeah, so I can actually run a coffee maker or water boiler or something in reality in this boat. I can't cook on it and stuff like that because this eye doesn't have enough solar. But let's say I wake up in the morning, start the coffee at 6 in the morning, run it for 15 minutes. That means I have full batteries again at 8 in best cases. And then it's time for some coffee around 9. I run it for 15 minutes again. Takes 2 hours to recharge. Then we are at 11. Then it's about lunchtime. After lunch we want coffee again. Let's say at 12. That means we have full batteries again at 2. And so on and so on and so on. So in reality, with this much batteries and this much solar, I can actually use a coffee maker on the boat's electric system without shore power, and that's really good. And let's say, yeah, we have a shower here in the boat. Those hair dryers, they are about on the same power, around 2000 watts. Run that for 10-15 minutes, no problem. I'm gonna put in about, yeah, I will see what I will find, but an inverter around 2,000-3,000 watts something, and then we shall try this out for real, in reality, because this is just on paper, but my experience from this says that it works. So yeah, there you have it. How much solar do you need and how much battery does you need? So yeah, it's just to count, and yeah, I know it's a lot of numbers, but when you get the hang of it, it's quite easy. If you have any more questions or something you want me to explain in more detail, leave a comment below. And as usual, there are a couple of support links down below if you want. And if you already haven't, subscribe to the channel. So yeah, see you next time. Next time we're gonna hook up my DIY Bluetooth stereo system. So stay tuned, like and subscribe. See you next time.